Most men are asleep. Not physically. They walk, they talk, they work, they scroll. But mentally, spiritually, strategically, they are completely unconscious. And the world loves it that way. Because a sleeping man is a manageable man. A man who can be controlled, redirected, exploited, and discarded without ever once pushing back. But every so often, one man wakes up. He doesn't announce it. He doesn't perform it. Something simply shifts inside him. Deep, quiet, and permanent. His eyes change. His silence grows heavier than other men's words. His patience becomes sharper than other men's anger. People feel it before they can explain it. That shift isn't luck. It isn't talent. It is a mindset. A cold, precise, ruthless way of seeing the world that was understood by conquerors, practiced by kings, and deliberately buried by systems that needed you manageable. Machiavelli called it virtù. Not kindness, not charity, but the ferocious, disciplined capacity to bend reality to your will. Today, I'm handing it to you. But be warned, what follows won't comfort you. It will rebuild you. Now drop in the comments. I don't react, I calculate. Let's begin. Number 2, the nature of power. Here is the first truth they never taught you. Power is not given, it is taken. Not through violence, not through theft, but through understanding. The man who understands how power moves, where it pools, how it shifts from hand to hand like water finding the lowest ground, that man becomes untouchable. Machiavelli watched princes rise and fall, watched brilliant men get destroyed and mediocre men build empires. And he asked the only question that matters: why? The answer was never talent, it was never righteousness, it was never who deserved it, it was always, always who understood it. Power flows toward the man who controls his emotions while reading everyone else's. It flows toward the man who speaks less than he knows, who moves before others realize the game has started, who never reveals his full hand no matter how much trust is in the room. Power is not loud, weakness is loud. Power is the quiet man in the corner who already knows how the evening ends before it begins. Most men spend their entire lives chasing money, status, and validation, not realizing that all three of those things are merely symptoms of power, not the source. Chase the source. The source is your ability to think clearly when others panic, to stay silent when others expose themselves, to act decisively when others are still debating. This is what separates the dangerous man from the ordinary one. Not his circumstances, not his connections, not his resources. His clarity, his absolute, unshakable clarity about how the world actually works versus how men wish it worked. The world rewards results, not effort, outcomes, not intentions, perception, not truth. Internalize that. Now tell me in the comments, power is taken, never given. Say it like you mean it. Number 3, the art of controlled silence. There is a weapon so powerful, so devastatingly effective that most men never discover it. Not because it's hidden, but because it requires something modern culture has completely destroyed in them. Patience, discipline, the iron will to say nothing when everything inside you is screaming to speak. That weapon is silence. Not the silence of a man with nothing to say, but the silence of a man who has everything to say and chooses not to. That distinction is everything. Machiavelli understood that the man who controls his tongue controls the room. Because the moment you speak unnecessarily, you hand your opponent a map. You show him your fears, your insecurities, your desires, your weaknesses, all wrapped in words you thought made you sound confident. Every unnecessary word is a crack in your armor. Every emotional outburst is an open door for someone smarter to walk through and own you. Watch how ordinary men behave when they feel disrespected. They react immediately, loudly, desperately. They need the room to know they're not weak. But that need, that desperate hunger for validation, is the weakness itself. The dangerous man does not react. He observes, He lets the other man talk. He lets the other man reveal. He sits in the discomfort of silence like it's a throne, not a punishment, because he knows that information is currency, and the man speaking is spending while the man listening is saving. Dark psychology teaches us that silence unnerves people. It creates pressure without confrontation. It forces the other person to fill the void, and in filling it, they expose everything you need to know about them. A calculated pause is more threatening than a raised voice. A cold, steady gaze holds more power than 1,000 heated words. Train yourself to become comfortable in silence the way other men are comfortable in noise. Let them talk. Let them perform. Let them exhaust themselves trying to read you while you read them like an open book. The quieter you become, the louder your presence speaks. And presence, real, undeniable, suffocating presence, is the beginning of true power. Drop in the comments right now. My silence is my strategy. Because if you understand that, you're already ahead of 90% of the men alive today. Number 4. The mask and the face. Every powerful man in history has understood one uncomfortable, politically incorrect, deeply liberating truth. You must never show the world your real face. Not because you are a fraud, not because you are weak, but because the world is not safe enough, wise enough, or loyal enough to handle the full weight of who you actually are. Machiavelli wrote it plainly, without apology. A prince must know how to use both the lion and the fox. The lion for force, the fox for cunning, and the mask for everything in between. The mask is not deception for the sake of manipulation. It is strategic presentation. It is the conscious, disciplined decision to control what the world sees, what it feels, and what it believes about you. Because perception, in every arena of human life, is the currency that determines your access, your influence, and your survival. Ordinary men wear their hearts on their sleeves and call it authenticity. And while the world applauds them for it, the world also uses them for it. Because a man whose every emotion is visible, whose every frustration is readable, whose every ambition is announced before it is achieved, that man has handed the people around him a remote control, and someone somewhere will press every button. The dangerous man understands that there is a version of himself he shows the world, and a version he protects at all costs. The public face is warm where necessary, cold where required, agreeable when strategic, and immovable when it matters. It shifts, not out of weakness, but out of mastery. Like water taking the shape of whatever container holds it while remaining in its nature completely unchanged. This is not fake. This is elite. The man who can walk into a room full of enemies and make them feel like allies, who can smile at the man who betrayed him while quietly dismantling everything that man built. That is not a liar. That is a strategist operating at a level most men cannot even comprehend. Dark psychology calls this high self-monitoring, the ability to read a social environment instantly and adjust your presentation without losing your core. It is the difference between being driven by your emotions and using them as tools. Your anger becomes a performance deployed when useful, not a reaction triggered when provoked. Your warmth becomes a door you open selectively, not a vulnerability left permanently exposed. Your confidence is not loud. It is architectural, built into how you stand, how you pause, how you enter and exit, how little you need from the room to feel whole. Guard your real face. Not forever, not from everyone, but from the world until the world has earned it. Because the men who changed history were never fully understood by the people around them. They were felt, they were respected, they were sometimes feared, but never fully known. And in that mystery lived their power. Now go to the comments and write, "They see my mask, never my mind," because that one line separates the players from the pawns. Number 5, the philosophy of strategic suffering. Every man alive will suffer. That is not a possibility. That is a guarantee written into the contract of being human. Loss will find you. Betrayal will find you. Failure will find you. Humiliation will knock on your door at the most inconvenient, most devastating, most soul-crushing moment possible, and it will not apologize for arriving. The question was never whether you will suffer. The only question that has ever mattered is, what will you do with it? Ordinary men treat suffering as an interruption, as evidence that life is unfair, that they are unlucky, that the universe has singled them out for punishment. They sit in it, marinate in it, broadcast it, and slowly build an identity around it, becoming defined not by what they overcame, but by what broke them. And that is the most dangerous thing a man can do. Not because suffering is shameful, but because surrendering to it is surrender itself. Machiavelli observed that fortune, fate, circumstance, the unpredictable chaos of life controls roughly half of human events. Half. But the other half belongs entirely to the man with the virtue to meet it. He used the metaphor of a river. Fortune is like a raging flood, destructive, indiscriminate, unstoppable when it arrives in full force. But the wise man, the prepared man, the man who has done the inner work before the storm, he builds embankments, he shapes the terrain, so that when the flood comes, and it always comes, it does not destroy him, it redirects around him. This is the philosophy of strategic suffering. It does not ask you to pretend pain doesn't exist. It does not ask you to perform strength while bleeding internally. Stoicism is not numbness. That is a critical misunderstanding that has weakened an entire generation of men who confused suppression with mastery. True Stoic power is feeling the weight of something fully and choosing your response deliberately. It is the gap, that sacred, disciplined gap, between what happens to you and how you choose to react. In that gap lives your freedom. In that gap lives your power. In that gap, ordinary men collapse and dangerous men are forged. Dark psychology teaches us that men who have been through genuine suffering and processed it, not avoided it, not performed it, but truly metabolized it, develop something that cannot be taught in any classroom, bought with any amount of money or faked in any boardroom. They develop an unshakable psychological foundation, a kind of inner bedrock that makes them immune to the tactics others use to destabilize ordinary men. Shame doesn't work on them. Guilt doesn't move them. Pressure doesn't crack them. Because they have already been to the bottom, looked around, decided it was survivable, and climbed back up. Changed, sharpened, and completely recalibrated. Your suffering is not your story. It is your laboratory. Every betrayal taught you who not to trust and sharpened your ability to read people before they reveal themselves. Every failure stripped away the strategies that were never going to work and forced you toward ones that will. Every moment of humiliation burned away the fragile ego that needed external validation to feel whole, and left behind something far more valuable, a self that is self-sourced. A man who does not need the world's approval because he has already approved of himself in the darkest room at the lowest point with no audience watching. That man is not ordinary, that man is not just dangerous, that man is unstoppable, and that is exactly what this channel exists to build. So right now in the comments, write, "My pain was my training ground," because if you can say that and mean it, truly mean it, then what's coming next in this monologue is going to hit you differently than anything you've ever heard. Number 6, the enemy within. Before we talk about the enemies outside you, the competitors, the betrayers, the systems designed to keep you small, we need to have an honest, uncomfortable, brutally direct conversation about the enemy that has already done more damage to your life than any outside force ever could. The enemy inside you. Because here is a truth that most self-help content will never tell you, because it doesn't sell courses, it doesn't generate likes, and it doesn't make you feel warm and validated. The reason most men never reach the level they are capable of is not because the world stopped them. It is because they stopped themselves. Daily, quietly, consistently, through 1,000 small surrenders so habitual, they stopped feeling like surrender at all. They started feeling like personality, like identity, like just the way things are. And that is the most sophisticated trap the human mind has ever constructed. turning your limitations into your biography. Machiavelli was ruthless in his assessment of human nature, not because he hated men, but because he understood them with a clarity that most philosophers were too polite to commit to paper. He saw that men are by nature fickle, ungrateful, avoidant of difficulty, drawn toward comfort with an almost gravitational pull that only the most disciplined among them ever fully overcome. And he did not write this to condemn, he wrote it as a warning, because the man who does not know his own weaknesses cannot defend against them. And a man who cannot defend against his own weaknesses will always be conquered, not by his enemies, but by his own untamed, undisciplined, unexamined interior world. Dark psychology identifies this as self-sabotage, but that word has become so overused, so diluted by casual conversation, that most men hear it and think it applies to someone else. Let me make it specific, so you cannot look away. Self-sabotage is the version of you that gets close to something real, a genuine opportunity, a meaningful relationship, a moment of breakthrough, and finds a reason to destroy it before it can disappoint you. It is the procrastination that feels like planning, the overthinking that feels like preparation, the isolation that feels like independence, the arrogance that feels like confidence, the comfort-seeking that feels like self-care. These are not innocent habits. These are defense mechanisms built by a younger, more wounded version of you, built to protect you from pain, that now operate like a prison, keeping you not just from suffering, but from everything, from growth, from power, from the life that is sitting just on the other side of the discomfort you keep refusing to walk through. The Machiavellian man does not flinch from this self-examination. He does not protect his ego at the cost of his evolution. He sits down with himself, coldly, honestly, without mercy, and conducts an inventory. He asks the questions that hurt. Where am I lying to myself? Where am I choosing comfort over capability? Where am I performing strength while privately avoiding the very battles that would produce it? Where is my potential being held hostage by my own hand? And then, and this is the part that separates the men who transform from the men who merely consume transformation content, he acts on what he finds. Not tomorrow, not when conditions are perfect, not when he feels ready, because readiness is a myth constructed by fear to keep you exactly where you are. He acts now, imperfectly, uncomfortably, with resistance screaming in every direction, because he understands that the man on the other side of that resistance is not the same man who stood before it. He is harder, he is sharper, he is freed from the tyranny of his own hesitation in a way that changes everything. His decisions, his presence, his results, his trajectory. The Stoic philosophers called this the dichotomy of control, understanding with crystalline precision what is within your power and what is not, and refusing to spend a single unit of energy on the latter. Your past is not in your control. Other people's opinions are not in your control. The economy, the timing, the circumstances, not in your control, but your response, your discipline, your willingness to look at the ugliest parts of yourself without blinking and then rebuild them into something formidable, that is entirely, completely, and permanently within your control. And that is where your power begins. Not in the world, not in other people, not in opportunity or luck or timing. It begins in the moment you stop negotiating with the enemy within and start conquering him every single day, without applause, without an audience, without anyone handing you a trophy for doing the hardest work a man can ever do, the work of becoming. So drop in the comments right now. I am my greatest opponent and my greatest victory. Write it, mean it, and let it be the standard you hold yourself to from this moment forward. Because everything that follows in this monologue is built on that foundation, and without it, the rest is just words. Number 7, the architecture of loyalty and betrayal. There is a lesson that life will teach you one way or another, either through wisdom you choose to acquire or through pain you were too trusting to avoid. And that lesson is this: not everyone in your circle is in your corner. Read that again. Not everyone who smiles at you is safe. Not everyone who supports you publicly respects you privately. Not everyone who calls you brother has your interests anywhere near their heart. And the sooner you accept this, not as cynicism but as clarity, the sooner you stop being a victim of your own misplaced loyalty and start becoming a strategist of your most valuable resource, your trust. Machiavelli wrote that men will betray you for the smallest of gains when the opportunity presents itself, not because they are evil in some theatrical, cartoonish sense, but because human nature, left unexamined and undisciplined, is fundamentally self-interested. This is not a condemnation of humanity. It is an accurate, unsentimental description of it. And the man who builds his life, his alliances, his inner circle, and his empire on a foundation of sentiment rather than strategy will one day wake up surrounded by the wreckage of everything he built, wondering how the people he loved most handed the tools of his destruction to his enemies. Betrayal does not always arrive with a knife. Most of the time, it arrives with a smile. It arrives in the subtle undermining of your ideas, in rooms you weren't invited to, in the friend who encourages your comfort when he should be pushing your growth, in the advisor who keeps you dependent on his counsel because your independence threatens his relevance, in the partner who praises you publicly and quietly resents your assent privately. These are not dramatic villains. They are ordinary people operating from ordinary self-interest, and your failure to see them clearly is not their fault, it is yours. Dark psychology teaches us that the most dangerous people in your life are rarely strangers. They are the ones close enough to know your vulnerabilities, your fears, your blind spots, and your dreams, because intimacy, weaponized, is the sharpest blade in existence. The Machiavellian man does not respond to this reality with paranoia. Paranoia is just fear wearing a tactical costume. He responds with discernment, that cold, patient, almost clinical ability to observe the people around him over time, under pressure, and in moments of both his success and his failure, before extending the rarest and most valuable thing he possesses, his genuine trust. Watch how people treat you when you have nothing to offer them. Watch how they speak about others when those people are not in the room. Watch how they handle your success, whether their congratulations reach their eyes or stay frozen at their lips. Watch how they respond to your boundaries, whether they respect them or quietly work to erode them. These are not tests you administer dramatically. They are observations you make silently, patiently over the natural course of time. Because time is the only environment in which a person's true character cannot indefinitely maintain its disguise. Build your inner circle like a fortress and not like a party. A fortress is selective, intentional, and built for withstanding pressure, not for impressing visitors. Every man inside your circle should make you sharper, more accountable, more honest with yourself, and more dangerous in your pursuit of excellence. Every man who doesn't meet that standard, regardless of history, regardless of sentiment, regardless of how much shared time you have accumulated, belongs outside the walls, not with hostility, not with dramatic declarations, but with the quiet, firm, unapologetic repositioning of someone who has finally understood that his most important responsibility is not to make everyone comfortable. It is to protect the mission, protect the energy, and protect the version of himself that is still becoming. Loyalty is not given freely by the Machiavellian man. It is earned through consistency, proven through adversity, and maintained through mutual elevation. And betrayal, when it inevitably comes, because it will come, is not met with rage, with revenge fantasy, or with the kind of emotional devastation that derails ordinary men for years. It is met with the cold, clear acknowledgement of a lesson learned, a wall built exactly where it should have been built long ago, and the absolute refusal to let someone else's smallness define the size of your future. Because the dangerous man does not break when betrayed, he recalibrates, he becomes more precise, more selective, more strategically sovereign over who gets access to his world and at what depth. And in that recalibration, he becomes something that betrayal, no matter how devastating, can ever fully reach again. Now write in the comments, I build walls where I once built doors, because that is not bitterness, that is wisdom hardened into architecture. Number 8, the discipline of becoming dangerous. Let us be precise about something that the modern world has thoroughly confused, commercialized, and diluted beyond recognition. Discipline is not a morning routine. It is not a cold shower. It is not an aesthetic journal entry written in golden hour light with a motivational caption underneath it. Discipline, in its truest, most Machiavellian sense, is the systematic, relentless, often unglamorous process of closing the gap between the man you currently are and the man your full potential demands you become. And that process is not pretty, it is not comfortable. It does not trend on social media. It happens in the dark, in the silence, in the moments when no one is watching, and every soft, undisciplined part of you is negotiating furiously for just one more day of delay. The dangerous man does not negotiate with that voice. He does not debate it, reason with it, or try to silence it with affirmations. He simply moves, because he has understood something that the majority of men alive today have not. That motivation is a guest that comes and goes as it pleases, but discipline is a resident that stays regardless of the weather. You do not wait to feel ready. You do not wait to feel inspired. You do not wait for the circumstances to align perfectly, because they never will. And the man who waits for perfect conditions to begin his transformation will die having never started it. Machiavelli was unambiguous in his belief that the greatest leaders, the most formidable men in any era, were not those born with superior gifts. They were those who developed superior habits through superior commitment to the craft of becoming. He studied Cesare Borgia not because Borgia was born great, but because Borgia constructed his greatness through calculated, consistent, ferociously disciplined action in the direction of his vision, even when that vision seemed impossible to everyone around him. That is the model, not inspiration, not raw talent, not fortunate circumstance, constructed, deliberate, relentless. Dark psychology reveals that the most psychologically formidable individuals share one common trait above all others. They have developed an almost inhuman tolerance for delayed gratification. They have trained themselves to consistently choose the difficult thing that serves their long-term power over the easy thing that serves their immediate comfort. And they have done this so repeatedly, so consistently, across so many domains of their life, that it has stopped being a choice and become a nature, a character, an identity so deeply embedded that softness no longer feels like relief. It feels like regression. This is what you are building toward. Not a better morning routine, not a more disciplined week, a fundamentally different relationship with difficulty itself, where hard things stop feeling like obstacles and start feeling like materials. Raw materials from which the dangerous man constructs his advantage, his resilience, his reputation, and his results. Because every hour of sleep you sacrifice for your craft is a brick. Every uncomfortable conversation you stop avoiding is a brick. Every temptation you override, every distraction you eliminate, every moment you choose your future self over your present comfort, brick, brick, brick. And one day, without announcement, without fanfare, without a single moment that feels like a dramatic breakthrough, you look up and realize you have built something that most men only ever dreamed about from the comfort of their hesitation. You have built a version of yourself that is no longer ordinary, no longer manageable, no longer available for manipulation, distraction, or the low expectations of people who never believed in the scale of what you were quietly constructing. You have become, through the accumulated weight of 1,000 unglamorous decisions, precisely what this entire monologue has been building toward. Dangerous, not to the innocent, not to the peaceful, but to every limitation, every ceiling, every system, and every voice, internal or external, that ever told you that you were not capable of more. The dangerous man is not born, he is built. decision by decision, day by day. In the silence where no one is watching, and the only thing that separates him from who he was yesterday is the choice he makes right now. So write it in the comments. I am built in the silence where no one is watching, because that is where real transformation lives. Not in the highlight reel, not in the performance, but in the private, unglamorous, sacred daily practice of becoming someone the world cannot ignore. Number 9. The unstoppable man. We have arrived at the place this entire monologue was always moving toward, not as a destination, because the dangerous man understands that there is no final destination, no moment where the work is complete, no summit where he plants his flag and declares himself finished, but as a threshold, a crossing point between the man who consumes this kind of knowledge and nods along thoughtfully, and the man who internalizes it so completely, so permanently, so cellular deeply that it begins to reshape how he thinks, how he moves, how he makes decisions, how he responds to pressure, and ultimately how the world experiences his presence. Because that is what unstoppable actually means. It does not mean invincible. It does not mean untouched by pain, unaffected by loss, immune to failure or doubt, or the kind of deep exhaustion that comes from choosing the harder path every single day in a world that makes the easier path so aggressively, so seductively available. Unstoppable means that none of those things, not the pain, not the loss, not the failure, not the exhaustion, not the betrayal, not the doubt, none of them have the power to permanently redirect you away from what you have decided your life will mean. That is the Machiavellian definition of an unstoppable man. A man so aligned with his purpose, so anchored in his principles, so ruthlessly committed to his vision that the storms which devastate ordinary men become, for him, nothing more than weather, temporary, survivable, and ultimately useful. Machiavelli understood that the prince who endures, who truly, historically, permanently endures, is never the one who avoided adversity. He is always the one who walked directly into it with open eyes, clear strategy, and the kind of psychological fortitude that can only be built through the exact journey we have walked together through this monologue. The awakening, the understanding of power, the mastery of silence, the discipline of the mask, the alchemy of suffering, the conquest of the internal enemy, the architecture of loyalty, the religion of discipline. Each of these is not a standalone lesson. It is a single stone in the foundation of something magnificent, something that, when fully constructed, becomes a man that the world simply cannot move, cannot manipulate, cannot exhaust, cannot diminish, cannot define on its own terms. Dark psychology tells us that the truly dangerous individual, the one who operates at the highest level of strategic intelligence and psychological sovereignty, is not driven by ego. Ego is fragile. Ego needs constant feeding, constant validation, constant external confirmation that it exists and matters. The unstoppable man is driven by something far deeper, far quieter, and far more permanent than ego. He is driven by purpose, a purpose so clear, so non-negotiable, so embedded in the marrow of who he is that it functions less like a goal and more like a gravitational force, pulling every decision, every relationship, every sacrifice, and every strategic move into alignment with a singular sovereign vision of what he is here to build. And when a man finds that, truly finds it, not the performative version he posts about, but the real version he would pursue even if no one ever witnessed it, he becomes something the world has no adequate category for. He becomes the kind of man that history remembers, not because he sought fame, but because he sought impact. Not because he needed to be seen, but because what he built could not be ignored. This is who you are becoming. Not someday, not when the conditions improve, not when you have more resources, more time, more support, more certainty, now, in this moment, with exactly what you have, exactly where you are, forging exactly who you are deciding to become through every choice that follows this one. The ordinary man looks at the mountain and calculates the distance. The dangerous man looks at the mountain and starts climbing. The unstoppable man looks at the mountain and realizes, with a cold, quiet, absolute certainty, that the mountain was never the obstacle. He was. And now that he is out of his own way, nothing in this world can stop what comes next. So go to the comments right now and write, "I am not who I was, I am what I decided to become." Post it. Mean it. Let it be the declaration that marks the line between who you were before this video and who you are walking away from it as. Because that line is real, and you just crossed it.